Love lives here.
This year here at Centers for Spiritual Living Worldwide, we are working with the theme, the 2021 theme of Timeless Wisdom, Evolutionary Vision. And that is also the theme that we are working with this month. And today we are talking about here and now. As I mentioned at the beginning of the year, this year we are on an upward spiraling journey to greater heights and deeper understanding, greater insights and deeper understanding. That we are on this collective journey of oneness, moving forward together, individually, of course, but also moving forward together on this fantastic journey of self-discovery, on this fantastic journey of divine unfoldment. So when you think about a journey, my beloveds, when you think about a journey, first you have to kind of, before you even set an idea of where you're headed, you kind of have to know where you are, right? Where are you? What, and be in the present, in the here and now. If you don't know where you are, it's kind of hard to figure out where the heck you're going. Is that right? I mean, sometimes we're kind of lost in the woods and then we just kind of start meandering to figure out. But even still, we assess where we are in the moment. Even if we don't know like the specific location, we have a sense of where we are in the present and in the present moment, in the here and now. So it behooves us to assess where we are, where we have come from, and where we stand currently before we begin our journey out into the greater yet to be. Our spiritual journey, whether it's a spiritual journey or a physical journey or just going to the grocery store, it's always good to assess where we are before we head out. So that we can get a sense of our bearings, so that we can get a sense of what's present in us, what is present with us, and what it is that we are carrying with us as we go about our journey. So in thinking of that, and in thinking that, and realizing that together as a spiritual community and together as an organization and a movement, we are advancing, we are moving forward on this spiritual journey. It is a good idea to take a moment and look at where we are in the here and now, and what it is that we would like to carry with us on this journey. Like, how big of a bag are you going to pack, right? And what are you going to put in that bag for this journey, this particular journey? Now, I used to be a flight attendant, as you well know. And so, my ability to pack for a long period of time in a carry-on bag is really quite extraordinary. So I can pack a lot of stuff for a long period of time in a small bag if I need to. But what is it that I need on this spiritual journey? What is it that you need on this spiritual journey? What is it that you need to bring forth with you and to carry with you on this journey of unfoldment this year? So what do you think? What do you need to carry with you this year? Go ahead and type it into the comments. What are you willing to carry with you this year that you already have, that you are willing to carry with you along on this journey? I have time. You have time. I can wait. What are you going to carry with you on the journey of unfoldment this year? At the end of 2020, we all looked at the white stones and our intentions. So what is it that is going to help you fulfill that, or align you and to fulfill that intention of that white stone this year? So what are you carrying with you on this journey this year? Dinah says, a grateful heart. Beautiful. Commitment, peace, presence, wisdom, openness. My heart. Sense of humor. Oh, yes, definitely a sense of humor. For sure. Sense of humor. Awareness, love, compassion, empathy, forgiveness. Very good, Francis. The allow, says Kenneth. Meditation, life's lessons, wisdom, desire to walk in the fullness of my divine heritage, forgiveness. Another forgiveness. Yes, love, right? So these are the things we're willing to carry with us, right? We're willing to carry these things with us. And recognizing what these things are, we realize that though these things have great power, these things are quite self-love, yes, Doris, that these things are actually quite light. And they are easy to carry. Would you agree? That the love, the forgiveness, the self-love, purpose, that this is an easy thing to carry with us. These are easy and light things to carry with us. Now, I want you to think too of, all right, so what are we going to leave behind? Because really, we have a journey ahead of us. And what do we not need to bring? Do we need to bring the kitchen sink with us? Do we need to bring 50 pairs of shoes with us just in case we might go dancing in Rio? Do we need to bring with us a suit just in case? Do we need to bring with us the parka just in case? Do we need to bring with us the swimsuit just in case? Do we need to bring all this stuff with us? What is essential, which is what you've been sharing with us? What is essential to bring with us? But what is not essential to bring with us? What do we need? What is our opportunity to leave behind these things? What things are we going to leave behind? So Francis is saying, leave resentment and grievances. Yes, Francis. What else are we leaving behind? What are we going to leave behind? Leaving anxiety. Yes, excellent. Fear and doubt. Well, there you go. Sense of lack and insecurity, hate, judgment, ego, judgment. What else are we going to leave behind? Just leave it behind. Judgment and blame. Leaving behind fear, overthinking, the past, ego, grudges. What else are you leaving behind? We don't need to carry this with us. They're not going to serve us on our. It's not going to serve us on our journey. What else are we leaving behind? All right, I'll let you think about it as we continue. So this is part of the here and now. We are assessing where we are now. We are assessing that these things live with us. These things are present with us, and we are choosing as we step forward, we are going to leave these things behind. And as we leave these things behind, then what we bring forward is something new, something greater, because we are creating a space. Thank you, Matt. Leaving behind self-doubt. Yes. That we are creating a space for the newness to come in. So, as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, checkbooks. Yeah, there you go. Love that. As I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, we are going to be using our timeless wisdom, the wisdom of the ages, the timeless wisdom, as a compass to help navigate us on this journey forward of this evolutionary vision that is pulling us ever forward, that is calling us to higher and greater heights, that we are using the timeless wisdom and spiritual practice to move us forward. So the spiritual practice and the timeless wisdom that I'd like for us to focus on today, or to think about today, to consider today, and several of you have mentioned it, is forgiveness. Now I know that this sometimes gets people all itchy and twitchy, like forgiveness. Why do I have to forgive? Ugh, right? But I would like for us this day to think about forgiveness in a different way. Frequently, we think about forgiveness from a more traditional perspective of forgive and forget. Well, we know that that doesn't always happen, right? But what we also know from a more traditional way that we approach forgiveness in our faith tradition is that it is about forgiving so that we free ourselves of the torment and the anger and the anguish and the pain that we are experiencing as the result of something else. That it is not necessarily a absolving of sin or an absolving of mistake or an absolving of abuse. It's not necessarily absolving somebody else. That it is a clearing, if you will, to allow us to no longer be held hostage to or held victim to whatever the event was, to continue to hold ourselves in confinement and limitation because of something or someone else. So this is the idea that we have of forgiveness that we frequently talk about. That forgiveness is for ourselves, it's not for anybody else. That forgiveness is for us. That forgiveness sets us free. And I'd like for us to look at forgiveness in a slightly different perspective. Emma Curtis Hopkins, the teacher of teachers in the New Thought movement, she taught Ernest Holmes, she taught the Fillmores, she taught the Brooks sisters, all formed different denominations within the larger context of the New Thought movement or the New Thought denomination, if you will. They all taught, they all founded different organizations within them. But Emma Curtis Hopkins approaches forgiveness in this way. It's a different way of thinking about it. She approaches forgiveness as a giving for. So she approaches it as an exchange, if you will, right? So from the mystical perspective of looking at forgiveness, it is an exchange for. It is a releasing something in exchange for something better. Not quite let's make a deal, but kind of maybe, right? But it's not, like what's behind door number one? I'll switch this out for that, right? But it is a slight exchange of energy. It's an exchange of what am I willing to release? And then what am I willing to embrace, or what would I like to receive in exchange, right? Or what would I like to receive instead of? So her approach to forgiveness then is that something is given for something else. So if we are talking about ignorance, she says, forgive my ignorance for thy wisdom. So forgive, in other words, give for my ignorance. I'm giving my ignorance. I'm releasing my ignorance. So instead of ignorance, as I'm releasing it, I'm giving it up. Give me divine wisdom. As I give up limitation, give me abundance. As I give over, or as I release lack, give me prosperity, right? So it is a forgiving, it's a giving up one thing and receiving something greater, something higher. So what I invite us to look at here now is the practice of forgiveness from this perspective. So all of those things that you're leaving behind are opportunities for forgiveness. Forgive my will for thy will. Now, I want us to be really clear that the thy here is the indwelling presence of spirit. It is not some, outside, some deity outside of ourselves, because we recognize that there's only one power, one presence, that it is the indwelling spirit, that the highest most God and the innermost God are one and the same. So therefore, it is not a directing it outward, it is a directing it inward, but it's a directing it to a higher state of consciousness. It is directing it to our higher self that is still the self. So when we ask for forgiveness, that we are then asking that we are, instead of even asking, it is almost an affirming, it is a commanding, it is a demanding that we release something. And in exchange for that, we open and we receive something else. So there, yes, Francis, perfect. I forgive my bondage for peace, for your peace, or give up bondage for peace, right? Give up bondage for freedom. Give up anger. I release anger. I forgive my anger for thy peace. Forgive my self-righteousness for thy righteousness. And this is the thy will be done, not my will, but thy will be done, right? This is the forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Forgive my perceived lack, my perceived limitation. Forgive my transgressions for justice, for righteousness, for right useness of the law. Forgive my for thy. So one of the things she says is forgive myself for thyself. And that is one that you would use perhaps with, if you had typed in ego, forgive myself with thyself. So I see what you're willing to let go of, what you're willing to release here in the here and now and leave it behind as we move forward. But what is it that you're willing to embrace? If you leave this behind, what is it that you are opening up to? What is it that you are welcoming to join you on the journey? What is it that you are going to take this rock out of your bag and you're going to replace it with this object of beauty, this garment of beauty, this garment of righteousness? What item are you taking out and what are you replacing it with? So Frances says that she's replacing bondage for peace. What is it that you are willing to forgive? What is it that you're willing to give up, give for, to receive? And what is it that you will receive when you give that up? So I invite you to type that now. What is it that you're willing to release, to give up? And what is it that you're willing to receive in its place? Ego for wisdom. Beautiful. What else? What are you willing to forgive? Prosperity, hope, love, and joy. What are you willing to release or forgive? Another way that you might want to consider this: forgive anxiety for serenity and freedom. Beautiful. Forgive self-judgment for self-love. Excellent. Another way of looking at the same kind of concept as you continue to fill these in: judgment for grace. Beautiful, Linda. Judgment for grace. Oh, absolutely. Release perception for truth. Yes, Francis. Anxiety for peace. Fear for peace. Fear for love. Yes. So Howard Thurman, the great theologian, wrote this. And this is along the same line. So this is another way of thinking about it. If forgiveness is kind of like, but let's look at it this way. He says, open unto me light for my darkness. Open unto me courage for my fear. Open unto me hope for my despair. Open unto me peace for my turmoil. Open unto me joy for my sorrow. Open unto me strength for my weakness. Open unto me wisdom for my confusion. Open unto me tenderness for my toughness. Open unto me love for my hates. Open unto me thyself for myself. fear and doubt for faith, fear for peace and freedom, forgiveness of siblings for a new start. Yes, 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 yes. Denise, that brings us right into our next, what else I wanted to share with you this morning, that we don't just do this for ourselves. We do this collectively, we do this together, because it has been said that if we want, on our journey, if we want to go fast, we go alone. If we want to go far, we go together. But what we know about the spiritual journey is that you cannot go fast on the spiritual journey. You cannot set out to go, I'm going to be enlightened. Now let's go, right? The spiritual journey itself sets the pace. The spiritual journey itself sets the pace. So if the spiritual journey is setting the pace, then, and it would then dictate that we're going, and the spiritual journey also is never ending, right? The spiritual journey doesn't end. It doesn't just stop. It's like, okay, I've arrived, right? It's a continuous unfoldment. It's a continual movement. So if the journey then is endless, the journey then is perpetual, then we have to go far along the journey. So if we can't set the pace, we can't rush it, and we are going to go far, then wisdom would dictate that we go together. Would you agree? Wisdom would dictate that we go together. So this same practice that we have just participated in individually, we also use to travel together on this journey together. For every person that releases fear and doubt for faith, for every person that releases fear for peace and freedom, for every person that releases ego for divine self, judgment for grace, all of the others, for every person that does that, we together release the baggage. We release those things that have been holding us back, that have been dragging us, as a community, that have been dragging us as a nation. We release those things. We allow those things. We surrender those things. We give them up in exchange for the peace, the love, the faith, the freedom, the new start, the divine self. And we move forward together, lighter, helping each other on our path of unfoldment, helping our nation on its path of unfoldment. This week, we start a new journey in the United States. We start a new journey with a new president and a new vice president, with a new government, if you will. And there are those who want to line our pockets with rocks. There are those who don't want to go with us. There are those who are trying to hold us all back. And in this case, we invoke the words, forgive them for they know not what they do. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Not only do they not know what they do, they have forgotten who they are. And so, in exchange for their ignorance, in exchange for forgetting, forgive them their forgetfulness, that they may remember, for your remembrance. Forgive them their ignorance, for thy wisdom. Forgive them their hatred, for thy love. Forgive them their sense of separation, for unity. Forgive them. Forgive them. And we recognize that there is no us and there is no them, so then it becomes forgive us. Forgive us our ignorance for wisdom. Forgive us our hatred for peace, for love. Forgive our unrest, our anger for peace. Forgive our separation, our sense of separation, our belief in separation for oneness and unity. Dr. King, in his sermon entitled The Man Who Was a Fool, I kid you not, there was a sermon titled The Man Who Was a Fool. In his sermon titled The Man Who Was a Fool, he spoke this. All of life is interrelated. All men are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. And you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality. And so it is this that I remind us in the here and now, that we are one. We are interrelated. That what we ask of ourselves, we ask of others, and what we ask of others, we ask of ourselves. What we ask for forgiveness within ourselves, we must ask for forgiveness within our brother as well, our sister, our sibling. What blessings we ask, what blessings we command, what blessings we demand, we also demand for our brothers, our sisters, and our siblings. This is the way forward. This is the path forward. This is the timeless wisdom that we use as a compass to help guide our journey this day. We use the practice of forgiveness. We use the wisdom of forgiveness to move forward this day on our evolutionary journey. So I invite you to join me in the here and now, assessing where we are, where we stand, and open out a way to allow the call of spirit, the call of the vision to move us forward. Release and receive. It's the law of circulation. Release and receive. So blessings to you this day. It is such an honor and a pleasure to be walking this path with you as we step together into our greater yet to be, as our country steps together in our greater yet to be this week and in the days ahead. Know this with me, that we are one. Always. There's nothing else to be. And so it is. So let's come together in consciousness. I recognize here and now, right here and right now, God is and I am. As we sang earlier, right here, right now, God is, I am. God is, I am. And therefore, I surrender myself. I surrender my sense of self. I surrender my sense of smallness to the greater yet to be, to the greater that it already is. I yield so that I may experience a greater yield. I yield my limitation. I yield my sense of lack. I yield my anger. I yield my ignorance. I yield. I surrender. I let go. I release. And I receive. I open and I receive love. I receive peace. I receive freedom. I receive oneness. I receive unity. I receive wholeness. And it's not that they don't already exist, because they already do. It is simply my releasing anything unlike it, anything unlike God, anything unlike these things. It is in the release that I create an open space in which I can experience that which already is. And so in this moment, I experience love, I experience freedom, I experience wholeness, I experience joy, I experience peace and harmony and wisdom. I experience oneness and unity. And recognizing that there is only one, I know that then this is true of everyone present here this day. Because right where I am, the power and the presence of the Spirit is. The divine is. It is the who of who I am. It is the who of who everyone is. Therefore, I know that Spirit is alive in each one. Spirit is at work in each one. And so collectively, we set down the rocks. We remove the rocks from our bags. We remove the weights that have been holding us back. We remove the limitations and the obstacles that have been holding us back. We surrender them. We yield them. And we receive the divine blessing. We receive the divine awakening. We receive the enlightenment. We receive and experience love in all of its forms. Peace, harmony, wisdom. And I'm so grateful for this knowing right here and right now. And I release it into the law, assured of its fulfillment, already here and now. I let it be, and so it is.
Love